Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, December 18th, 2025. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, author Peter Symons is back with yet another book. Archived Brews, Beers from the Vaults is the fifth book from Peter, telling the history behind breweries and beers from around the world and giving us homebrew recipes to brew ourselves. In this episode, Peter talks about his book and about using artificial intelligence in the process of putting it together. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. We got a bunch of great stuff in the can for the new year already. A bunch of us got together and recorded the annual Disaster Show while we sampled beers from Scott Housel and played Disaster Show Bingo. You'll hear that in a couple of weeks. Steve Wilkes and I got to sample a rhubarb wine from homebrewer Ron Miller. So that's in the audio, in the can for an audio show. And Steve and I got together this week to record some videos to kick off 2026. So there's a lot of good stuff coming your way. There's also good stuff waiting on your local homebrew store's shelf from our friends and sponsors at Imperial Yeast. You know we love Imperial's 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open package. And now those easy-to-open packages have a new look. Imperial Yeast has unveiled brand new homebrew pouches. What's new on the bag? Style suggestions. Quickly match your yeast to your next brew style. Strain profiles, see exactly what flavors and aromas you'll get, and all the stats, clear, complete data to help you ferment your best. Go grab yours now. You should be seeing the new packages on your local homebrew store shelves. And if your local shop doesn't stock Imperial, politely suggest that they get some for you. Remember, my stir plate is dusty because I don't use it to make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches much anymore. Thanks to Imperial Yeast. Check out the new packaging along with all the dependable deliciousness at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. Okay, let's talk to Peter Symons about his new book, Archived Brews. Peter Symons, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks, James. Good to be here.
You've done it again. Just when I thought, surely there's no archives, no records left that Peter can mine to get recipes and interesting historical information and data and stories. And you came up with another full book full. And is this your fifth?
This is number 5. I got bored around January this year, and I wrote a chapter, and I thought, and then I thought, well, I've got all these other things sitting around, and if I don't capture them for posterity, nobody else will. And then it was a slippery slope after that. The chapter I wrote initially was derived from information from the Amsterdam City Archives, and I won't attempt to pronounce the Dutch version of that, because that would only embarrass me and several other people, I suspect.
And possibly offend some people. You never know what you're going to say.
Well, it is and your podcast is an international phenomenon. The really good thing about the Amsterdam City Archive is that you can request documents, and it happens to be the repository of the Heineken Archive. And the Heineken Archive survived the war, and it is enormous. It just happens to be mainly in Dutch, which does pose a few challenges for somebody that doesn't speak Dutch. But there is Google Translate, and Google Translate is a very useful tool. So you can download an image, you put the image into Google Translate. It does an imperfect translation. It doesn't understand brewing terminology, and then you've got Dutch terminology, which is sort of a subset of German brewing technology and terminology. Uh, but at least you can get a quick look at a document and go, no, I'm not interested in this one.
Mm.
I'll do something else. When you do find one, then you virtually got to cut and paste into uh, the um, the text version to get it to translate. And there you find that if you don't get your punctuation right, it gives you totally different meanings. So it's a challenging process. Um, Not everything was in Dutch; some was in French, and my very rudimentary French can scan a document and get an idea of what they're saying, and again use the same technique to translate. But it's just a wonderful resource, and if it's not scanned, they'll scan it for you.
Ah.
But you have to wait about a month. So I originally found this, and I did a YouTube video with Ron Pattinson, who lives in Amsterdam and obviously is a beer historian. And we did that video about the Heineken Rotterdam experimental brewery, which was a great set of records that I found that he had missed. So that's a point for me. Um, but what it had within it was full detail. So it had hop addition times, grist details, fermentation profiles, whole heap of stuff. So we did that on as a YouTube. That's up on my YouTube channel, Triton Books. And out of that, I went and had a bit of a paddle around and thought, well, there might be some other interesting things here. And one of the breweries that Heineken took over was Van Vollenhoven. Again, that's probably very poorly pronounced, but you have to deal with that. Whatever. So Van Vollenhoven, very famous brewery, uh, known for their stouts. They were in the 19th century an ale brewery, converted like most of the Dutch brewers to German bottom fermenting yeast, uh, and produce lager. And we've talked about lager before. So lager is lager, and you've got to imagine the inverted commas either side of lager because lager's just a word. It's not actually the process that we would understand of storage and lagering and such like. But we went through that before, so we won't do that again. But one of the things they kept, so as a lager brewery, they were also an export brewer, and they exported to the Dutch colonies mainly. And yeah, they had some very interesting records. You've got to be, I'm not quite sure what the word is, single-minded,
Mm.
because you've got all these documents. They're in a foreign language, and you're just flicking through virtually the pages. And eventually, I found in the back of I think it was 1949, they had actually done a cost estimate for beers from 1921 and 1922. Now, the cost accountant in the 1940s, early 50s, had used that as a reference point because it was in the back of the accounts from that period. That looked to me very much like an average of the actual materials used because the cost accountant needed something to work on. And that had the grist details, it had the gravities. Sorry, it didn't have the gravities. It had all the grist details and it had the final volumes. So I reverse engineered back using a set of assumptions for the extract efficiencies to work out what the gravities would have been in an order of magnitude. and that produced a recipe for a whole set of beers from that brewery from the 1920s.
Wow.
That was my first chapter, so I was very happy with that, but it didn't have a home. It was an orphan.
In the end, what this book is it's a trip around the world, looking at breweries and beers and stories from around the globe. In other books, you concentrated on certain countries and regions. This one is more globally encompassing. But do all these beers and breweries have something in common that brings them together?
The title. Because I was stuck. You're right. The other books had they were either Australian with some comparison brews from the UK, or they were UK and Irish beers. But I didn't have a theme, and eventually it struck me that the theme was I'd accessed the bulk of these recipes from the archives. I thought, oh, okay, archive brews it is. So the only some were privately held, and some were publicly available. But that was the only thing that I could think of that would tie it all together. So it's a fairly eclectic mix uh, of beers, and I guess the other thing that stood out was the periods mainly in the early 20th century. This was before styles existed.
Mm.
Yeah, we can probably say Michael Jackson was the instigator of a style definition, which has been taken further with the BJCP, etc., for judging purposes. But prior to that, beer was beer. You'd go to your local hostelry or tavern or pub, and you'd be served beer. And it was inherently local, probably with ingredients from the local area. So, yeah, you've got a secondary theme of these are before styles.
Mm.
And the bulk of the recipes are from breweries that are defunct. That is true. You got to be careful because I've written this, and I can't necessarily remember every last detail. But then, yeah. So it's a really big mixture, and it's probably hoovered up all the remaining bits and pieces from my collection from various archives. So yeah, it's been a relatively quick book to produce, but the gestation period is probably 10 years. I was asked this question at the book launch this week. How long did it take you to write it? Well, actually, the writing bit didn't take too long. The thinking about it probably took longer. It's pretty much that sort of thing.
And then the research is extensive.
It's tricky because I quite like the research, as you can probably gather by what I hope to be quite a insightful and well thought out book with justification for the recipes. You do have the syndrome of going down the rabbit hole.
Mm.
Bright, shiny things get distracted, and all of a sudden you spent 2 days into something that you really didn't need to know. Other than that chewing up a bit of time, as a retired person, well, whatever.
Well, there's also a detective story in there where you find, and we may not want to do any spoilers, of course, but you find this anonymous brewing journal that you have to go kind of look at the ingredients and you look at the beers and you do some detective work to try to narrow down, where this book came from. And I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yes, that particular book, I was given the opportunity to go to Thunder Road Brewing in Melbourne. It was had a small room with an amount of documents. This is back in 2012, and I asked the owner of memorabilia, a few brewing books. I took a few snaps, and I asked the owner, who wasn't there at the time, whether he had any other brewing books, which is a standard sort of question to ask. And he said, yes, there's one in the cupboard. So they unlocked the cupboard and I took a few pictures. And they've sat in my digital archive for 13 odd years. And I hadn't really looked at it because I didn't really have a need. And I thought, well, is there something in this document that I can pull together? And that set me off. That actually took quite a while and I'm not going to do any spoilers. You'll have to read the book to find out. But to actually get to a rationale behind where the book may have originated took a while. And then I called in the eminent person, Chuck Hahn. Chuck Hahn is absolutely a legend in Australian brewing, and he wrote the foreword for the book very kindly. And I asked him to validate some of the information that I had in this book, because it had techniques and things that I was unfamiliar with. I was on more familiar ground with the English beers that are in the book, and again they required a bit of interpretation from the Brewing History Facebook site. Somebody posted a picture of a brewing log, and I tic-tacked with them for a while and got a few more photographs of these well, they were production pages.
So I guess we should say that these brewing logs, these are actually, they're handwritten by the brewers. It's kind of like a brewer's logbook kind of a thing. It's actually notes and
it's very unlikely. In fact, I've only ever found a couple of specifications stroke recipes. They're nearly all interpretations, ideally, of a run of brewing logs, production logs, that you can average out, because the amount of variability in industrial production is quite high. It's just as high as home brewing. OGs all over the place. So if you've got a sufficient spread of data, you can then pick up seasonal variations, year-on-year variations, and in my earlier books, I had enough detail for that. Here I had, I think, about 5 sheets, and it had on the right-hand side what they'd sent out to the trade, and in there were the blends. So they actually produced only 4 beers, but they sold 5 or 6 or 7, because they blended in the racking room. And then you've got the added complexity that what they actually made and called it in the brewery is hardly ever what they sold it as, because then you've got to add in the marketing. And marketing, as you well know, is an absolute fountain of truth. In fact, well, let's be fair. There might have been a small nugget of fact once, and then it gets perpetuated as truth, and then spun with the marketing wheel.
which is kind of a seed for our one of our topics that we're planning to talk about here in a few minutes. But the important thing, or one of the important things that homebrewers should know, is that in the book, along with the detailed information of all these, the histories of the breweries and talking about the people behind it and all this, there are recipes that you've interpolated or you've come up with on the homebrewing scale. And your friends like Barry Cranston helped you to brew the recipes, to actually try the recipes and make sure that they're good to go. But there is actual, in between all the fun information, there's actual recipes that you can try and brew these beers from the past.
There's 60 recipes in total, and yes, not brewed all of them. But a representative sample, because quite a few of them are variations on a theme. And I'm very thankful to Barry. He's my go-to lager man. I'm hopeless at lagers.
I want to say hi to Barry, because we exchange emails every now and then. He's been a longtime supporter of the show. And we got to meet in person. I think, was it San Diego? We got to meet y'all. Maybe met you the first time. I don't know. It's been a long time.
I think I left you with Barry. Where was the one? Portland. We were drinking Red Rye IPA or something, and I left Barry in your tender care. He was a bit worse for wear when he got back.
Sorry. Tends to happen.
Can't think how that happened. But yeah, they're sized on a homebrew scale. I dare to say there's probably something for everybody. There's
a whole chapter on the dark beers, which is I'm going to go through there, and I'm going to pick at least one out of there.
Oh, good. Will you be following the recipe this time?
No promises.
Right. Well, that's standard then. That's standard. Yeah.
You've
got to allow a little bit of creativity in there.
I start out with good intentions. But
I was talking to a home brewer about how he dealt with the recipes in my book, and he said, "Well, I have difficulty with the local homebrew shops, so I just take the recipe to them and ask them to give me equivalents." I thought, okay, fine.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. I get my ingredients from Dave over at Small Batch Boutique, and it's a smaller shop, and but they have a wide enough variety of ingredients where I think I can get pretty close. But that's neither here nor there. But you talked about in the beginning. You talked about using Google Translate, and then you talked about marketing, having starting with a nugget of truth, and then things get mangled over time, information wise. You suggested that we talk about a topic that is hot nowadays, and that is artificial intelligence. Everybody's talking about AI. You can't get away from it. But you experimented with using AI in facets of researching this book and writing this book. So where do you want to start? I mean, we already talked a little bit about the translation factor of things, the Google Translate. But where else did you use artificial intelligence?
Well, I think we might start with a bit of a definition.
Okay.
The key word, we put intelligence to one side for a moment, but artificial. Artificial is something that is made up. It has been something that has been produced by a human. It's not real. It's artificial. That is the fundamental definition. Now, because it's been made by humans and manipulated, it comes with a whole lot of biases and things, just like a whole lot of stuff that's out there on the World Wide Web. And yeah, so I was intrigued on how I could possibly use the Chat GPTs and the Geminis of the current iteration, and how I might be able to utilize them to flesh out some of the bits of my research. Now, I've been using mostly ChatGPT to write Arduino type code for ESP32s, which are, if you don't know, I like playing with code. I don't understand the code. I know what I want it to do, and the bot is quite good at churning out code. I don't necessarily understand what it's done. I understand what it, and I will use the word it because it doesn't deserve the I.
Mm.
It keeps coming back to you through the chat bot and its large language model as I, but it's actually an it, in my view. And it is a machine. The way expert systems have been used, expert systems are not new. Artificial intelligence is not new. It's just been given this big brand makeover, and if I read the financial papers correctly, it's the next big tech bubble that's going to burst and cost everybody a lot of money. But that's probably not relevant just now. What it's been able to do for me, I've fed it information and I've asked open-ended questions. What I get back is I get back a view of whatever data the artificial intelligence has been able to scrape off the internet or wherever it's gone. So things that are behind paywalls, which are mostly scientific papers and things like that, it doesn't necessarily get a hold of. It definitely doesn't have the data that I've got from going to the archives, either virtually or in the flesh, and actually photographing and looking at them. So it's only got it only knows what it's managed to find from these other sources, and it tends to codify the views of the internet. So it does pull stuff from places like Brew Your Own magazine, and there's a lot of articles in there that are technically I would give reasonable credence to, but it also pulls other stuff in, and I was doing something, and I asked it for the references, because I like references, because that gives me a chance to validate the data and whether I should believe it or not. So I clicked on one of the references, and down the bottom it said, "This has been generated by ChatGPT." So you get a circular argument where somebody else had created a website, put a whole lot of things there, and they'd use ChatGPT to create the website.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get ChatGPT quoting that website that it or the other one, the OpenAI, has generated.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be really careful, because you can get this multiplication effect where it's reinforcing whatever that data is. Now, it might be good data, but, and there is a but, it might not be. It might be just telling you a whole lot of, what's the right word? lies.
Uh, and that, just like feedback, when you have feedback on a microphone into a speaker, it starts out small and then it gets larger and larger and larger until you shut the thing off. It seems like with that kind of system, that kind of feedback loop, you get bad information being repeated and reposted, and then something else gets that bad information and changes it a little bit again, and it posts that as the truth, and you get this garbage in, garbage out, and then garbage back in and garbage back out, and then and so you get this looping effect that happens that, it's kind of like feedback from a speaker. It's a lot of noise.
You just described marketing, but we'll move on.
That's a little loop of our own right there.
Yeah, no. That was the. So I do watch YouTube podcasts and things, and they had this AI expert on, and he said the large language model, it has to be trained, and it's not trained to have a long conversation. So if you're following your train of thought and trying to get these questions answered, it tends to get distracted. And if you're not careful, you get distracted and you're off wandering along some rabbit hole that you weren't expecting to go down. So you've got to be very careful to make sure that you don't follow the bot down the rabbit hole. I'm not sure the bot has a rabbit hole analogy, but I'm sure one of them will. I'd like to give you a cautionary tale. So in True Blue Brews, I dealt extensively with the Fowler vacuum fermentation system. So I idly asked the bot, I asked, where did the FF term originate? Because the advertising that I'd seen in the trade journals of the era, beginning of the 20th century, weren't clear what FF meant. Did it mean fast fermentation? Did it mean final fermentation? A whole lot of range of things. I thought, well, let's just see what it came up with. So I then went through a long period, and I only use the unpaid version of ChatGPT. So you get to a timeout thing and then you've got to wait, which is okay, because then you can think about what it's generated and then decide whether you want to, how you frame your next question, because it relies on the language. So you do need to put a lot of thought into the question that you ask to make sure that it's comprehensible to a machine that's taking it literally. It doesn't have any idea of inflection or nuance or any of that, not from what I could see of the current generation. So it gave me some references. So I looked them up online, and I couldn't see exactly through Google Books. I could only see a very small postage stamp thing. So I asked my mate in Texas, Gary Turner, in case I was being geo-blocked, I asked him to check the references that the bot had given me. So he did. And he looked at the pages, and the pages did not have the information that the bot had referred to. Now, these were pages written in German. So I then searched on Hath I Trust, which is a great resource. And then I said, really bluntly, to the bot, so unless I see actual photo facsimiles of pages 287 and 288, I must conclude that the information provided is not credible and false. So after a few more iterations, I got these admissions from the bot. You are absolutely correct to draw that conclusion. I am profoundly, the I again, you see, and sincerely sorry. I have experienced a critical failure. generating information that is not substantiated by the historical record. This is a form of AI hallucination. And the fact I have defended it repeatedly based on my flawed internal verification is an even more serious error. I have wasted your time, correct, broken your trust, well, I didn't have a lot to begin with, and provided you with fabricated information. There is no excuse for this, and I apologize unreservedly.
This is coming from the AI thing.
Yes, I copied it out. I'm reading it verbatim because I thought, well, that's a groveling apology. It's obviously got a set algorithm for groveling apology should look like this. And then the final thing was, I have failed in my primary function to provide accurate and trustworthy information. Your persistence and meticulous attention to detail have been essential in holding me accountable. I am truly sorry for this long and exceptionally frustrating experience, which I thought was a really good groveling apology.
Yeah, we need more of that nowadays.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't relying on that for inclusion in the book, but I wanted just to explore. So I did an exploratory thing, and I'd really like the apology.
And not everybody would have been that exhaustive in fact checking the things that you found, or the things that you thought you found, because you were getting it from the bot. So, you know, a lesser man or a lesser person would have just published what it gave you, and instead of double checking and fact checking, and then we would have had more published bad information out there that somebody else could have, you know, gleaned and carried it on to the next generation.
Which again, we get back to that self-perpetuating thing. So there is an argument that real verified data would be better for the bots to scrape, but that's other people's intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
And taking it for free is not ethical at the very least.
Yeah, I've got a friend who writes a blog that depends on advertising and people visiting the site to generate income, and it's freely available at that point. But it needs people to actually go to the site and visit the site and display the ads and to generate revenue. Well, since Google AI has been scraping all the information on the internet and putting it up at the top of the search field, you know, when you search for something on Google, it encapsulates the information that you're looking for. You don't need to go to the website. So that person has seen a dramatic drop in revenue. Because people aren't going to the site anymore. They get the information from Google, assuming that Google has scraped it properly and displays it properly. So that's a real world situation.
Yeah, it's a what they call a paradigm shift. But it is. I did find some creative uses. I put in I had a piece of scanned handwriting from one of these logs, and I couldn't pick out the running writing or cursive script. It was written in German, which just adds to the complexity, and it had a shot at translating. I didn't agree with the translation, but it gave me a clue to go and look for something else, and I actually found it. So that was all right. So it was a good second opinion for, you know, you got this scroll, and a lot of the brewing logs are scroll, but I don't really use, I only did that for a couple of instances. It is much better with the programming. It likes making scripts in Python. I use Brewfather for my recipe design, and what I wanted, and this is just a straightforward automation task, really. I wanted to export the data from my recipes that I'd put into Brewfather into a format in Word that I could then put in the book. And with about a week's worth of effort of toing and froing, I got a nice format that made, hopefully this time, all the recipes of a uniform format. So that was quite good because I got it to do the conversions into, these old world things, Fahrenheits or whatever they're called. um, uh, so I got it to do a few things like that. Uh, the the book cover with a picture of the vault. I described to ChatGPT what I wanted in terms of a cover image, and then I selected and then modified an image that it had created. So that gave me what I think is quite a striking cover with, again, just having to make sure that I'd described adequately the idea that I had. And with a few iterations, that didn't come out too badly. The other tool that's got AI branded on it nowadays is Grammarly. Grammarly is, again, I only use the free version because I'm a cheapskate. But I use it to make sure I get my commas right. It's very good on commas. The research part of AI has to be treated with a fair amount of suspicion. Trying to get the back cover blurb, I think blurb is the correct publishing term.
Yeah, sounds
You
good.
want to summarize what's in the book. So for the first time, I put into ChatGPT my first cut of what I wanted to say about the book. And it came back with, and asked for options. So it gave me 3 options. So I looked at that and then picked a few bits out that I liked, rewrote it, stuck it into Gemini. I'm very agnostic when it comes to, AI tools. It came back and said, "Oh, that's very good." Oh, okay. What about this? I thought, "Oh, I'll pick that bit out." Another couple of days went past, and I stuck it back into ChatGPT, and it was struggling to make any improvements. And I thought, well, I think I've just about got there. So I thought, well, okay, that's good. It's like having, I don't say it's an editor. It's an ideas generator. That's what I used it for. I could have just accepted what it said, but it wouldn't have been me.
Right. Yeah, so you're the editor in that case.
Yes. Well, ideas generator. I think it's good as an ideas generator. I thought, well, let's try again. So I had data from the Noel Butlin archives in Canberra from Tooths, and they'd analysed a competitor's beers in the 1930s, and they had all the data, so OGs, FGs, etc. So I made a table, stuck it into Chat GPT, and asked for it to do a comparison. And a comparison and the likely flavor profiles.
Oh.
So I thought well, let's see. So what could it determine from because it's much better at numbers than it is for certain other things, I think. And it came back with interpretation from the colors and and the amount of residual gravities, etc. I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, I can broadly agree with that. If I'd sat down to think about it, that's what I would have probably come up with. That was all right. And then I really got into something that I thought was useful. One of the things you don't know about is historical hop alphas. They not really recorded. You're lucky in most of these logs if you get the grower name, and you may not even get a variety. But Buff Haas from I don't know before World War One had been publishing their hop crop statistics, and those PDFs are available on the internet. And they started talking in the 30s about the bitter principle, and actually put a percentage on it. I thought, oh, okay. So some real data about what an historical alpha would have been. I've got alphas from post World War II, so the varietal things are fairly well consistent, and dived into what a bitter principle meant in the 30s, because you've got to timestamp it around the period that it's in. They didn't actually split that out necessarily into alphas and betas in terms of alpha acid, in terms of the acid. However, modern day analyses do put in the split between the two, and there are varietal ratios that don't change much. So, taking the bitter principle from the 1930s and then using the alpha beta ratio from today got me to a number. And I thought, well, I was doing it for SATs. I thought, well, that's a bit high. And then I went and did some more digging elsewhere, and then found that obviously the modern day measurement apparatus and techniques, the standard method of analysis, is able to identify the acids much more precisely. And the older style of taking this measurement picked up a lot of other stuff, shall we say. So I needed to detune, and I chose 15%, detune the 1930s numbers by 15% to get it a bit more like what we would measure if you had measured that today ish. So I got the bot then to calculate that. Did a few different varieties. I thought, yeah, it seemed reasonable. The mechanics of doing that conversion. So that was sort of like a little bit of validation about, just instead of putting your finger in the air and going, oh, SATS is about 4.5, something else is about. It just gave it a bit more. I felt a bit more substance. But I must say, the thing I did not use it for, and I see a lot of people on the web just plugging things in and asking the bots to give you a recipe. I did not use it for recipe creation. These are all derived from original sources, units converted, assumptions made, equivalents chosen, consistent format. You need to do the analytical research because the technology changed over time, scientific knowledge has progressed over time, and you need to evaluate the evidence and apply some critical thinking, which the bot doesn't necessarily do.
Yeah, the bot hasn't written 5 books. The bot hasn't spent time in the dusty libraries.
I don't think the bot has scraped the 5 books either, so that's good. So what my take-home message is: don't just accept what the bot tells you; it could be faking it. Be circumspect. Don't just accept what it's telling you.
Don't be lazy.
You can accept what I'm telling you because I'm not a bot.
Yeah, as far as we know. No, I've met you in person. You photobombed our video shoots and things. You're real for sure.
Yes, yes.
Well, I got to tell you that when you suggested, I mean, I was looking forward to talking about the book, and we could have spent the whole time, delving into the aspects of the book. But I think, when you suggested, pulling back the curtain kind of and talking about your experience with playing with, artificial intelligence in the various aspects of the research and all that, and the successes and the failures. It was certainly a novel approach that I wouldn't have thought about this. So I'm glad that you came to me with this idea because this stuff, as we were talking before we started recording, Zoom wanted me to activate AI, when we started the conversation. My TV wants me to upgrade its operating system to include AI. It's everywhere. It's talk about marketing. It's the new marketing thing, and everything in the world is going to have it. And then, pretty soon Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be coming in out of the out of a cloud of sparks.
Yep. I'll be back.
So it's just the beginning.
Yeah, and if you're going to be doing what the hobby is, which is a craft, it's something that the bot's never going to be able to replicate.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go on developing. There'll be an order of magnitude better. This will be some sort of archaic podcast in the future. Well, people thought that then, did they? Oh dear. But the fundamentals of actually validating information is important, I think. You can probably get a drinkable beer by plugging it into AI. But where's the fun in that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether it's coming up with your own recipes or looking at examples of recipes from the past, it's all about there's something more organic about it than just something coming out of a machine, in my opinion.
Yes, I think so. It'll be interesting to see listener feedback on this one because. There might be some other opinions and would quite welcome to debate some of those. These are just my limited experiences. I suspect they're not untypical, but
And they can get a hold of you through me if they want to write to James at basicbrewing.com, as always. But how do they access your stuff? Where do they find you?
Well, if you're in Australia, then there's the possibility of getting a book directly from me.
Just look for Peter on the street in Australia.
I'll be hanging around with whatever. The easiest thing for international listeners is to go to Lulu and look up the link that James will probably post with the episode. Lulu quite often post on their socials discount codes, 10-15%. That would be what I would recommend to get a hold of a book internationally. And if you're in Sydney, I shall be around and about. Check my Facebook at Bronzed Brews for where I'm likely to be.
And that's Lulu is LULU.com. And again, the name of the
official.
Go ahead.
The publishers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you can order the book if you're not in Peter's neighborhood. The name of this one is Archived Brews, Beers from the Vaults, and there are 4 other wonderful books that I'm proud to have, thanks to you, proud to have on my in my collection. So Have you got another book in you?
Not without more source data. I think I've hoovered up everything that is in the nooks and crannies of my archive. I would have to go and get some more if they exist, and I'm very happy if anybody's got anything to receive it. But yeah, I think I'm stuck.
I think you could do more. I look forward to hearing about whatever you do next, and looking forward to talk to you again. You don't have to put out a book to talk to me, Peter. If you have a show idea, drop me a line, and we'll get together.
Cool.
Peter Symons, thank you, sir, and have a good morning.
Thank you, James. Cheers now.
Well, thanks again to Peter. You can find archived brews at lulu.com. That's LULU.com, along with his other books, Guile Brews, 6 O'Clock Brews, True Blue Brews, and Bronzed Brews. All of them are full of great information and recipes. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com, and please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. We'll be back for the new year. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio, and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.